All right, Alyssa Tejas reporting for us tonight. And Lubbock Mayor Dan Pope is with us, and it's always good to have you in. I have lots of questions. We took some from social media as well. Good. We're going to try to get as many as we can here. Now, as we sit here, it seems to be inevitable that a rollback of the governor's tiered business reopening is going to happen here.
Looks like it, yeah.
Do you expect we're going to lose some more small businesses over this?
We certainly hope not. I mean, I think the things to remember is it's a rollback to 50% of restaurant occupancy. It would close bars, but doesn't close many bars. Most of our bars have figured out a way to qualify as restaurants to serve, so they're able to operate. The biggest impact, I think, will be on our hospitals with the elective surgeries, and that impacts not only the hospitals, but the people who work at the hospitals, and so that's what. And
they're already having problems with that.
Yeah, we were on the phone today with the hospital leadership and for both Covenant and UMC, and you know, we're working on making certain we have enough beds available, not just for COVID patients, but for other members of our community and region, which count on their services for life. One of the challenging things is we have about 400 caregivers, nurses, physicians, nurses assistants that are home either positive or have in quarantine because they've had a close contact. And you know, when you get to the point where the virus is spreading in the community like it has, that's one of the real downsides to that, is what it does to all our businesses, but particularly to our healthcare facilities.
Is there any more relief money right now available through the city or the state to help with some of these businesses if we get in another bind?
Not right now.
Yeah.
No, there's not. We got ours to the market as fast as we could. In fact, our small business, we did 2 tranches. We did $3 million, $2 million up front, then another $1 million, and that's all been in the market for 90 days now.
The governor had mentioned in the past, anyway, that some instances, there's some local flexibility with the rules if things improve. Do you have the authority to say, we're better, we're going to go back to 75%?
I guess we do. We're a long way from there right now.
Right.
I mean, I think what you see governors doing or mayors doing right now at El Paso, some other places where their exposure rates are very high, you see them tightening down what the governor has. Brownfield did it yesterday.
Right.
You know, we're not going to do something like that unless we walk in lockstep with the county. We're too much as one, and so many of our big events are happening in the county. You hear about them, I hear about them. We've got to be on the same page if we are going to do something going forward.
With that in mind, you know, there were people who have been wondering out loud to me, was there any thought of pulling the plug on the South Plains Fair or keeping a closer eye on some of the rallies and things that are scheduled, the larger gatherings out in the county or that may spill into the city, or any thought of saying, okay, we got to police that a little bit better?
Well, certainly a thought. Certainly, so the county I have nothing to do with.
Right.
Everything that happens at Cook's Garage is an example.
Right.
You and I have talked about it before. That's outside of our jurisdiction. We worked pretty hard with the fair to put in place what I thought they brought us. What was a great plan. They worked on it a good part of the middle of the summer. I don't know if, even looking back right now, if I would have changed the decision on that. We don't really trace a lot of the spread to the fair. It's hard, frankly, right now to isolate the spread. It's so prevalent. For the first time in 2 months or longer, if you look back at the week that ended Tuesday evening, I get a weekly report on Wednesday just on our data. 18 to 29-year-olds were not the largest new category of new coronavirus. It was actually the 30 to 39. So unfortunately, what we thought would happen has happened. It's spread into the community. We're having nursing home problems right now. I mean, it's our message undoubtedly is not getting out, Bryan. This is a largely controllable situation. Wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance, and don't hang out with people that you haven't been hanging out with since March. I mean, that's where you run risk.
But Mayor, I'm so tired of this.
I know,
I just
I am
want to go
too.
hang out with friends, and I just want to go see people. And
I know.
my daughter's got a game,
Yeah, I mean,
and what am I
and
gonna
our
do?
mask. And
Yeah.
I mean, I started the morning early this morning. My wife and I talked to one of my brothers and his wife about Christmas, trying to make. I mean, we're all families are trying to make plans around Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I heard Dr. Scott Gottlieb, the former director of the FDA, on Monday, characterize this as we're in the 7th inning of a 9-inning baseball game. And normally we think about the 7th inning stretch and we're getting close to the end. I really do believe we're close to the end. But it's important that we take measures to keep people safe.
You mentioned thinking about whether or not you would have changed your mind on anything. Hindsight's always 20/20, and we know that, and
Sure,
everybody likes to play,
sure.
Monday morning quarterback on you. Certainly when it comes to people's lives, I think in a normal situation, folks would probably think that erring on the side of caution would be a fine thing. In the case of coronavirus response, though, people are just mad,
Yeah.
and you know that more than anybody. You're the closest target if it's not me on the media end of things. Do they have a point? I mean, especially in some of the decisions that were made in the beginning of all of this.
Sure. I think if we look back, it's easy to do now. We learn something a little bit new every day. Early on, we were learning a lot new every day. I think if I had to do it over again, and I think the governor very well might feel the same way, we probably would not have been as quick to shut things down. However, Bryan, I don't know if we would ever caught people's attention. That you could argue both sides. I think we know what slows the spread. We did such a good job through May and June and July, and then we had a spike, and we actually had it come back down, and we were having 85% face covering compliance. We weren't having all these birthday parties and house parties, which that's who we are. We're social creatures, but sure, we would have done things differently.
And you mentioned a lot of folks were coming up with ideas on the fly in the first part of all of this. Are there emergency scenarios and playbooks maybe for local governments to lean on if we get bad scenarios like this?
Oh, yeah. Sure, we not only game plan for this, we've actually got the procedures on the shelf. We do tabletop exercises where we bring our people in, the hospitals, the DPS, the county, and work through situations like this. So we're fortunate enough to have a number of our people that went through H1N1.
Sure.
That's our job. If job one is public safety, we think about that as police and police and fire and emergency management or EMS, but really the emergency management part of this, the health department, how you respond to a big health emergency is a big part of that.
As a city government, with plans on trying to keep up with growth and everything else, how are we set to come out of this once we get past the 9th inning of this?
Well, I think that's maybe the very best news. Our sales tax collections have been for 4 months in a row ahead of last year's sales tax. So we've made up that hole that was caused in the second half of March and all of April. Our bond rates have been are reaffirmed. So when we need to make investments and we go to the bond market to do that, we're going to borrow at a extremely low rate. In fact, lowest rates I can remember. We've just did some refinancing in the last month to take advantage of those very things. So we'll be strong. We're going to do it with the same people we went into it with. We have 2,400 people, roughly, right? We added a total of 3 positions this year. That's not keeping up with the growth of our community, so our folks are going to have to dig a little deeper, but our team is strong, and we didn't defund public safety. We certainly didn't defund the health department. We're continuing to make certain that we're ready to respond to the needs of our community.
There are folks who did not like the situation that you have apologized for voting to provide some help for a business cause that your wife was an investor in. People listen and say, well, here we go. There's another politician who's going to do something to benefit themselves Will you explain to people, I think, hopefully once and for all, what happened there?
I will. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it again. I've had a chance to talk to you guys about it before. We have a downtown grant program, which we've been doing for 3 years. We've done more than 75 of those. So there's two different elements to that. You can do facade improvements, or actually improvements in the building itself. The grant goes to the building owner. For every dollar that we've invested, there have been $20 in private investment. So we're into this for about $2 million. There's 40-something million been invested in downtown. We think it's been a fabulous success.
When you say we're into this, the city?
City is, yeah.
Okay.
And through the Economic Development Agency,
Right.
through Market Lubbock. One of those grants was for a building downtown that's been retrofitted for a new restaurant, which will open in the next few weeks. My wife is a minority partner, a very, very small partner. It's a young man, a Lubbock kid who moved back here, who's opening the restaurant. She made a small investment in that. I should have recused from that vote. I didn't do that. When I was made aware of that, I came clean on that. I messed up. I fessed up. I know I've got to live with it, but I've come clean, and that's the story. And it's taken on a life of its own. My wife's restaurant, quote unquote. Right. But that's what happened.
How could he not have known? You know, how could he not have known that this is going to help? And sure, maybe he's just doing this under the table.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you how you'd not know. It's that was a 700 to 800 page agenda book that we dealt with. That's something we do every 2 weeks. These grants are vetted and really voted on in the Market Lubbock and LEDA board meetings. That's you know, it's their actual money that's going to these that come to us for a second reading, so to speak. But I just missed it. We were in the throes of the virus, early response to it, and I missed it. And that's the how I didn't know. That's the part that makes it a bit, embarrassing to me. Is that there's nobody to blame but myself. It's not my wife, it's me.
Is your wife still an investor with that group?
She is.
Okay.
Yeah, she is.
All right.
Yeah.
Now you have an opponent who claims that he is a conservative, and more conservative than the guy who says he's a conservative. And we can debate that as much as you want out there, and that's up for you guys, I think, to do in the audience. Can you define your conservative style of leadership and governing?
Yeah, I think my conservative style, it would be more the classic conservative style. So small government, very much of a hawk when it comes to the way we spend money, when we look at taxes. I believe that local control is what's most important, that what's closest to our citizens is most important. So to me, it's a low tax rate. It's learning to pay cash for things. It's learning to say no to wants, or excuse me, to need, or wants and yes to needs.
Yeah.
It's just that how you, and it's building a principled approach to your finances. And that's what we've done, and we've strengthened our balance sheet. We don't just swipe the credit card at City Hall. To me, that's the conservative credentials that I bring. It's a lot of common sense, which I think in this part of the world goes a long way. Yeah.
Before I get into the specifics of this sanctuary city ordinance thing, what's your relationship like with state leaders right now, with Perry and Burrows and Frullo and others out there?
I would say that it's with Mr. Frullo, it's very good. We talk all the time. I say I have a professional relationship with Senator Perry. When we need each other, he's accessible, and I am too. I've not had much conversation or any conversation with Representative Burrows in the last period of time.
Not the issue itself, but the politics of that proposal that they gave you, and when I say you, I mean you and the city council, and the visuals they put together. It looked from the outside like, here are the state guys trying to flex on the local guys a little bit. Am I wrong with that?
I don't think so. Yeah. No, not at all. I mean, it's hard to balance a conservative state legislature who's taken so much power away from municipalities, turning around and saying, hey, we haven't taken care of this, but we want you to do it.
Right. I saw there was a Facebook group called Laser that referred to you specifically as someone who supported Planned Parenthood opening here.
Yeah, that's not true.
And it gets around Facebook. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on Planned Parenthood and abortions being performed in Lubbock?
Well, I don't. First of all, I'm pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want Planned Parenthood in our community. I think there's a much better alternative to a problem pregnancy. I made a statement on a radio show that I probably should have said a little differently. But, the city has no licensing responsibility around medical facilities, whether it's a hospital or an emergency room or a physician's office or Planned Parenthood for that matter. I mean, as long as they follow the zoning laws and I guess comply with environmental health, then it's that's our role in something like that. Mm-hmm. The state licenses Covenant. The state licenses the providers at Covenant, the nurses, the physicians. And they license long-term care facilities. They license our nursing homes. The city doesn't really have a role in that. In fact, the state constitution makes it speaks very clearly that municipalities are not to create laws, extending medical privileges, and so that's where I am on Planned Parenthood. Yeah. It's a mess, unfortunately, but I don't want Planned Parenthood in our community. I've not talked to Planned Parenthood. There've been people that said I've been coaching Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. I am pro-life. However, the ordinance that's been, let's just go to the ordinance. Okay. The ordinance that's been brought to us is that it's not constitutional. It would be void the minute it was passed. Bryan, it makes murder a civil crime. I mean, murder's not a civil crime. That's a criminal. That's in the penal code. Mm-hmm. It makes it a civil crime punishable by a $2,000 fine. I mean, that does not. So that would, if in fact it ever would be implemented, so Roe versus Wade would have to be overturned. The state would have to then say, hey, we want cities to deal with this, not the state. Right. Remember that the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution talks about states' rights. Prior to 1973, that's where abortion was regulated across the country. That's where, I'm with Senator Cruz on this and many others. I believe that's where it should be. I think Roe versus Wade should, if overturned or should be overturned, it would go to the state, and then every state would be able to decide how they go about this.
Okay, so tell people why go to the time and expense then of bringing the outside law firm Olson & Olson for an opinion on this at that point?
Well, one of our local delegations suggested that that our city attorney's office was, sort of captive to the council, that they would do what we wanted them to do. Mm-hmm. We wanted a separate set of eyes. Olson & Olson just does municipal law. Well, they don't do any private sector work. They do cities, counties, appraisal districts, that's maybe some school districts. So in that regard, we're not getting somebody who's got their hand on, in both sides. That's why we reached out to them. I found their work to be very thorough. We got a long legal opinion from them, and we released what we thought were the key reasons behind that and our not taking a step forward.
You saw it went around on social media. Was there any vetting done on people who worked there, backgrounds of relatives of people who worked there, anything like that?
I did not do that. The city attorney reached out to them. Art Pertall was the gentleman that was our attorney in this. He's was at one point was the city attorney of Waco. He's been with Olson & Olson for more than a decade. Mm-hmm. His ties to Planned Parenthood are that there was at one point the city of Waco had an ordinance around protesting, and some protesters in front of Planned Parenthood were arrested 15 years ago. He defended the city. He defended their ordinance. That's how he's pulled into this. It would be hard to find someone who's been in the city business that hasn't touched with this if you've had a long career. Mr. Pertall's our age. He's been at it a while. But other than that, certainly you vet conflicts and The other connection from Olson & Olson to Planned Parenthood was that the cousin of one of the founders is an attorney in Waco and is married to a lady who is on the board of Planned Parenthood in Central Texas. I mean, yeah, it would be great if there was none of that. There's 40 attorneys at their firm.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you started running down the bios of all of them, you could find a number of associations that might make you raise your eyebrows.
Okay, so they tell you that proclaiming Lubbock as a sanctuary city for the unborn would not work with Texas law. But you know what? Why not do it anyway? You'd earn the cheers and votes of most of the masses here. Sure, there would likely be a lawsuit or 10, but you think you couldn't get every church in the Tri-County area to do a special offerings by the week to pay the attorneys on that deal? And that's even if you didn't use the guy that Senator Perry said would work on it pro bono. Why not do it?
I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Texas. And when I read the legal opinion we received, it makes it very clear to me that passing that ordinance would would go against that oath that I took. Let me talk about the attorney that's been offered too. He's probably a very good attorney. I've done a little research on him. I don't know the gentleman. He wrote this ordinance. Mm-hmm. He's involved in writing the ordinance. It doesn't pass the smell test with me that we would hire someone free. Somebody would provide their services free, but we would not be paying them. We would not have gone through the process of deciding who would represent us on something like this. It'd be if I got into a legal dispute with you, and you said, "Hey, I got an attorney that'll do your deal free for you," and that doesn't
right.
that doesn't that. I don't think the citizens elected us to make decisions like that. So that's my position.
All right, so now we have the petition that's up, and if the signatures are verified by the city secretary, and this comes to a vote, how does that work? What happens here?
So I think I talked to the city secretary's office midweek. I believe by early next week they'll be probably ready to validate that. We have no reason to believe they won't have they turned in nearly 6,000 signatures. They only had to get 3,600 and something. So I would imagine the petition will become would be legit. She would certify that to us at the next regular council meeting. So likely the first meeting in November. Like anything else, it's got to be put on the agenda. It's got to be posted. It's got to follow that process. So we're going to meet the first and third weeks of November because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So it'll be that first meeting in November. After she certifies that, then the council has 30 days to have a public hearing on the ordinance and to consider the ordinance. If the council approved it, then it would go the way of any ordinance. We would take 2 readings, and it would become part of the city code. If the council doesn't approve it, then it would. My understanding is it would then go to a vote of the citizens, a referendum, which would be at the next uniform election date. So,
is that what you'd like to see happen? Let everyone vote on this kind of thing, or does it need to go that far?
I don't know. I still have the same concerns about the ordinance, whether it's the council voting on it or citizens voting on it. I haven't really played that part of this out. I've been much more focused on things at hand.
Is there a better way to do this? Assuming that what you say is true, and you'd like Planned Parenthood out of here. Yeah, is there a better way to do this?
I think there's probably a way that the council could come around some resolution that would, voice our thoughts around this. I think the way you keep somebody out of your community maybe is you make it clear that you're not wanted.
Yeah.
I think that could have been done pretty easily. In fact, some of these communities where they passed the ordinance, really they watered down the ordinance and it became more of a resolution to that very effect. We're certainly open to having conversations with the initiating committee, the people that put the petition together, if there's a desire to try to find an ordinance that would pass muster from the standpoint of constitutionality.
If you're reelected, what's your next term include? I mean, can we bring mom and pop businesses back that we've lost? And can we do downtown redevelopment for real?
Yeah, yes and yes. I think, our unemployment is, down just a little less than 6%. So it went as high as nearly 11. So we're gaining on that. We've lost some small businesses. There's no doubt. We've lost some big businesses.
Yeah.
And so it's a combination. Really, it's much more, I think, industry focused. Hospitality is where we've borne the brunt of this. Restaurants, our hotels, anything related to travel and special events. Those are the people that I think need our support. But yeah, we can bring them back, and our economy will be resilient. It has been. It will bounce back. Our single family housing starts are through the month of September were exceeded all of last year.
Yeah.
The fundamentals, the foundation is there. Our economic development phone is ringing off the hook.
Well, Mayor Dan Pope, I appreciate your candor in a lot of this stuff. Thanks. And letting people hear from you on a lot of these issues, hopefully for the last time before the election here. And good luck to you.
Bryan, 5 years ago, I announced I'd run for mayor. Mm-hmm. And I did it with my head held high, with principles that I had then. And when I leave this job, whether it be on November 4th or sometime in the future, I'm going to do it with my head held high. It's been a remarkable experience, and I enjoy getting up every day and doing the job.
Good to see you. Good luck to you.
Thanks for having me.